Hey everyone, it's Rebecca here. Now, before we dive into today's episode, let me ask, have you ever held back on something because it wasn't perfect? If so, this episode is for you. Perfectionism isn't about high standards, it's about fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. And the worst part, it keeps us stuck. We all have examples of how perfectionism has cost us time, money, and opportunities, and more importantly, how we broke free. We'll give you practical strategies today to stop overthinking and start taking action, even when it's not perfect. So, if you're ready to let go of perfectionism and move forward, stay tuned. This episode is for you. Welcome to The Brain Changers, a podcast about learning how to revolutionize the way you think and live by mastering your mind. We're your hosts, mother and daughter duo Rebekah and Yvonne King from Moonbeam Monday. Our goal is to empower you to live the life you choose by teaching you how to retrain your brain. Some people tell us it sounds like mind control, and it is, but not the way you might think. This is about you taking control of your own mind rather than letting your mind control you, so you can choose to live a life free from the expectations of others. No matter what you've experienced in the past, you can create positive change and transformation by learning how to master your mind. We know this because we've done it. Between us, we've survived cancer and stroke and eliminated debilitating anxiety and depression. We've turned our pain into purpose through the power of our mind, and we're now here to support and guide you to do the same. In this podcast, we share valuable insights about how your brain works, why you think, say, and do the things you do, how to begin the process of change, and why it's necessary. Because we know that when you change your mind, you change your life. Thanks for joining us. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Brain Changers podcast. I'm Rebecca, and as always, I'm joined by my mum, Yvonne. And today we're diving into a topic that I know has held both of us back in different points of our life: perfectionism.
That's so true, Beck, isn't it? And if you're listening, hands up if you've ever rewritten an email 10 times before hitting send. I know I have. Or maybe you've had a brilliant idea, but you haven't acted on it because you weren't sure if it was good enough.
Yeah, so if that sounds familiar, you're definitely in the right place, because perfectionism tricks us into thinking that we're playing it safe. But really, as I said, it's just keeping us stuck.
And today we're going to break down why that happens and, more importantly, how we can move past it so that we can start taking action and getting the results that we want without waiting for everything to be absolutely flawless and perfect.
All right, so let's just start with a short personal story. I remember when I was at TAFE, we had a class on creating the perfect resume and how to ace an interview. And the lecturer told us, and I remember this specifically, if they ask you about your weaknesses, just say perfectionism, because it sounds like a strength in disguise. And I thought that was such a genius idea. And I went into my interviews saying exactly that. When I was asked about my strengths and weaknesses, I said, oh, my weakness is perfectionism. I just need to get everything done right every single time.
I've heard that one too, Beck. It's actually being glorified as this desirable flaw, isn't it? But the problem is that kind of advice actually plants a seed in your mind, and then you begin identifying as a perfectionist, and suddenly that can become your excuse for not starting things.
Yes, exactly. And the same thing occurred. I remember working for an organization at one time where the launch of a major project was delayed again and again because everything wasn't perfect. Everything was really good. It was actually ready to go, but we didn't have all our ducks in a row, so to speak. We were expected to have the answer to every possible question that might come through. But in actual fact, we couldn't know every possible question. It was this never-ending list. And so the result was that the project launch was delayed for months, like month after month. And that cost us a lot of money and it cost us revenue.
Yes, it's easy to see how that could happen, isn't it?
Mm.
As some of you know, I'm writing a book at the moment, and this is the first book I've ever written, and I, I felt like a bit of an imposter to start with because I thought, how can I be an author? How can I actually write a book? But the fact is that all the advice for writing a book, all the courses I've done, is just to get something down on paper. It won't be perfect. There'll be a lot of changes that you have to make, but make a start and get moving on it and get it down on paper.
Exactly. So I guess the biggest lesson that has come out of all of these examples that we have, and there are many, many more, and I'm sure you've got many of your own, but the biggest lesson is that perfection is a myth. Right? Progress is what creates success. As my marketing coach says, and I love quoting her, done is better than perfect. If we wait for everything to be absolutely perfect, we're never actually going to get there. We're not going to make progress. So done is better than perfect.
Yes, I love that saying too, Beck. I think it's very, very good. But a lot of people think perfectionism is about having high standards. But really, think about this. It's really got a lot more to do with fear,
Mm.
a fear of failure, perhaps a fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. I know those were all the initial feelings I had when I decided to write a book.
Mm.
But that fear can lead to initially procrastination. You put off doing it. It can lead to avoidance, and this can actually lead to burnout too in some situations.
Yes, which we all know is a big issue for a lot of people. So let's talk about that cycle of perfectionism, because essentially this is the cycle that we go round and round, because I think a lot of people will recognize this in themselves. So the perfectionism cycle, it goes like this, is, as you said, fear of failure or fear of judgment. And that leads us into over preparing and over analyzing. You gave the example about rewriting an email 10 times before you're sending it. So we're over preparing. And then that leads to delaying action or avoiding risks. So in the email example, we may delay actually sending it, and then we feel stressed about it. We have that feeling of anxiety. Or as I said, we're avoiding risks. And then that delay in taking action, it does lead to temporary relief. So we feel a little bit better because we're not doing the thing that we're afraid of, but we don't progress anywhere. And so that then leads us back to step one. We sit in that fear of failure or judgment. We keep over preparing, over analyzing, and we go around and around in this cycle.
Yeah, it's just a circle, isn't it? And the worst part, that temporary relief that we feel from actually putting it off actually turns into more stress because now we've got that on our mind as another thing that we need to do that we haven't done, and it doesn't go away. It just sits there, taking up space and energy, uh, space in our mind and energy away from us.
Yes. Now, I also want to talk about how perfectionism feeds into imposter syndrome, because we hear this a lot. We have a lot of people come to us and they talk about imposter syndrome. And wow, we know that imposter syndrome and perfectionism are like best friends. Hey there, listeners. This is Rebekah King, the Brain Changer, helping you revolutionize the way you think so you can live your life on purpose. If you're loving what you're learning here on The Brain Changers, we've got something special for you. Take back control of your own mind and truly connect with like-minded people by joining our Mind Masters Collective, a premium subscription membership for those who want to feel happy and confident again, to feel seen, heard, and valued at an incredibly affordable price. Inside, you'll gain exclusive access to a supportive community of people on the same journey as you, knowing they want something more and ready to invest in themselves to achieve it. You'll get loads of valuable resources and expert guidance on mastering your mind to help you live your absolute best life. You'll make new connections and friends that you didn't even know you needed. We'll get close and personal in monthly masterclasses with guest experts and monthly mastermind group coaching to help you navigate the challenges and celebrate the wins as you grow and change. Join us now by clicking the link in the show notes. We're all waiting excitedly for you to join us inside the collective.
Totally. The more we strive for an impossible standard, the more we feel like we're not good enough. Even when we do achieve success, sometimes, very often, we downplay it. I was just lucky, or I was just in the right time at the right place. So it's easy for us to feel that we're just not good enough, that we haven't really earned it.
Yeah, and then what happens is that voice creeps in. We all know that voice in the back of our head, right? It goes, what if they find out I'm not as good as they think I am? You know, even when we've got the proof that we're capable, we might have even done it in a previous role or been successful in a previous relationship, but we still have this little voice inside our head that's doubting us. We doubt ourselves.
That's right. And it's crazy, really, because logically, we know that we're doing a good job. As you said, we may well have done this before. We're quite comfortable with it. We know we're doing a good job. But this need to do everything to a state of perfection convinces us that we're only succeeding because of luck, not because of our own ability.
That's right. Now, perfectionism doesn't just cost us money, as we mentioned in an example before. It actually costs us time. Like you said, it costs us energy. It costs us even happiness. Whatever happiness means to you, it can also cost us our happiness.
That's so true. And I mean, I think we can all relate to this, but how many times have we um, put off having friends over because everything at home wasn't just quite perfect? Maybe we don't have a perfect house, or we hadn't cleaned that day, or we don't feel that we don't know how to prepare the right meal or something like that. Or maybe we've even delayed starting a creative hobby because we felt that we just weren't naturally talented and good enough to do it.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to a couple of those examples. You know, I certainly have put off having people over because my house hasn't been, you know, I'm quite reasonably house proud. You know, my house hasn't been in the condition that I want people to see it. And even just last year, you know, I wanted to go back to playing golf and I was putting it off because I hadn't swung a club in years and I was I was worried that even though I was going to be with my friends out on the golf course and they don't care, I was putting the pressure on myself. I felt like I was going to be judged. So I was putting it off. And, you know, as a result, I was missing out on the opportunity to be with my friends, to be outside in nature, to be exercising. And this is what perfectionism does to us. It tricks us into believing that we're protecting ourselves. But really, it's stealing opportunities from us, you know, opportunities for joy, for growth, for success.
That's so true, isn't it? We need to recognize that. So let's talk some solutions now. We can't just decide to stop being perfectionists overnight, but we can shift our mindset and build new habits. And here's some things that can help us do that. First thing is to recognize the fear. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Naming it takes away its power. So we need to dig deep and say, what is it that's causing me to be afraid?
Mm-hmm.
Then interrupt this pattern. Instead of saying to yourself, I've got to get this perfect, try this instead. I get to do this, and done is better than perfect. So we're reframing the whole situation. And then take small, intentional actions, because we know that our courage grows when we take action despite any fear that we may feel. So reframe this fear of judgment. You know, the reality is that most people are too busy thinking about themselves to judge you anyway. And that is a cold, hard fact of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the imperfect action rule if it's 70% ready, go for it.
Mhm.
If you're going to wait for 100% ready, you're going to get stuck. And the problem is that you might never, ever get going anyway.
Mm.
So the reverse what if hack, instead of saying, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I get rejected? Ask yourself, what's going to happen if this actually works?
Mm. Yeah, that's right. So it's 6 really good tips there. And, taking the time to work through those, if you can identify that there is something that you've been putting off, it's going to help you actually get unstuck, get out of that cycle and get moving. We could even use this exact podcast as an example of done is better than perfect, or how to, 70%, what was it you said? If it's 70% ready, launch it. Where as if you are actually watching this video rather than just listening to it, you'll see that I'm in a different background, we're in a different space. And in fact, I don't even have my proper microphone. The sound isn't perfect today, and our internet is cutting in and out. And that may have actually been affecting this recording. But we've gone ahead with it anyway, because we want to make sure that we're delivering our podcast when we say we're delivering it. We want to help you with this information, to give you these tasks. So it's just an example of, rather than waiting till everything's perfect and actually not launching this and you guys missing out, we've gone with, hey, we're 70% ready. It's good enough. Let's go. So
Exactly.
I love it when there's a live example, right? All right. So it's time for a challenge. So for those of you listening, what we encourage you to do is write down one small thing that you've been delaying due to perfectionism. And then commit to yourself, commit to doing it within 24 hours. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the whole thing. This might be a larger task that you've been putting off, but commit to doing one small thing, taking one small step toward the greater task and doing it within 24 hours. And we'd love for you to share it with us on our social media. So you can send a DM through, or you can simply share it as a comment there. We'd love to hear from you.
That's a good place to finish, I think, to take some small action that can get you on this path. And also on that note, I'd like to leave you with this saying, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And Zig Ziglar was the one who said that, but there's a lot in that. We just need to take the first step, the first action.
Exactly. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to the Brain Changers podcast today. If this episode resonated with you, we'd love for you to share it with your friend. Perhaps somebody you know needs to hear this and it will help them. And until next time, remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Brain Changers. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Our mission is to reach as many people as possible to help them revolutionize the way they think so they can change their brain and create profound transformation. Please help us broaden our reach by sharing this episode with someone you know will benefit. And remember to tag us on socials at Moonbeam Monday and leave a review. And remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. We'll catch you next time for another episode of The Brain Changers.